All right, so this news about a Muslim community in Texas is coming at a time when talks about the West and its clash with the Islamic world and the Islamic worldview, as many are living within the West and have established new Islamic communities in the West. Those conversations are now at the forefront when we look at countries like the UK, like Germany and Sweden.
Hey, so today we're gonna do this quick reaction video. This is a video I found very interesting. It's very intriguing. I mean, it get me so triggered. I learned to do something before I listen to the. I mean, I don't agree with anything she says, but then her thing is like as you can see the Philos project. So this is the organization she's working for. This is their mission. It says it equips Christians to stand with Israel and the Jewish people, support persecuted Christians in the Middle East, and foster a revival of Western values rooted in the Hebraic origin of our faith. So this is their mission. I mean, this is their website. I didn't come up with anything. And so as you can see, they focus on Christianity. They say it's a non-partisan organization. They have like a big emphasis on this. Like they say, we believe that the state of Israel is a legitimate expression of the Jewish nationhood, etc. And they have like a position on Muslims. So that's what they focus on. Yeah, I mean, you can see from the questions they have over there. They say, oh, well, we distinguish between Muslim and Islam. Christian, we recognize community. So this is just political talk. And one thing I found is I was scrolled over here. There's this page called Financials, and they have this public, what is called tax return or whatever. And as you can see, these people are rich. $8 million in donation, 3 million salaries, 4 million expenses. And so this is the power of indoctrination and propaganda. These people are very, they're very, they got a lot of resources. Me, on the other hand, like I'm just trying to be impartial and independent. This is just what I think and all that. Well, I just cannot compete with these people. They got too much money and all that. I just barely have a phone and a computer. but when they're running this indoctrination, I mean, let's go. So the topic is like this Muslim so-called community in Texas. They want to build it's 400 acres and all that. And so she got a problem with it. Of course, we know what's the problem. Well, so let's listen to what she said.
Who, through and motivated by ideas that are inherently enlightened and cornerstone to the Western world of religious tolerance and
okay, and you're gonna hear these Western values, Western word, Western civilization, Western everything has to be Western, and they don't define it. That's what I have the problem with when it comes to this so-called Western stuff, right? It's never defined. You just have to believe it. And the problem I have is it's just preach it. They don't have to abide by it, right? They don't have to conform to it. So, for example, when they say international law, everybody has to conform to that document where it says international law. But the West itself doesn't have to do that. And so if you're gonna preach something and act differently, then you're a hypocrite.
Far left liberal ideas about open immigration and supporting and protecting the rights of religious minorities have now created an immense problem and issue. Again, even if you look in Paris, of immigrants coming from the Islamic world and not just integrating, but also refusing to assimilate to the Western norms and values and ideas.
Okay, no, I speed it up a little bit because she's a woman and she's talked too much and all that. Ma'am, nobody has to assimilate to any of your stuff. Like you're a bunch of hypocrite. That's the problem. You just don't want to admit, like I explained, you don't preach, the justice, integrity, honesty, all the stuff that you say, peace. You don't practice that. So when you say, well, people don't want to, they have to come to your country and then become like you? You want to impose your savagery on them?
These Western countries. Again, you look to the UK, it's the basket of Enlightenment thought. That's where the Enlightenment was birthed out of.
Okay, the British, when they had the Enlightenment, but they extinguished the light everywhere, right? They went all over the world and destroyed every single nation. Is that enlightenment to you? Looks like barbarism to me. Maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me, but that's what I see. I mean, I look at the history, I look at the facts, you know.
We see Christians being persecuted. You're not allowed to pray in certain areas. You can be
Oh,
arrested for
here's
it.
the
And then
lie.
you look to Ramadan celebrations that were happening in the streets, and minority religious rights are afforded freedoms that Christians no longer have in their country of origin. And that is something to talk about. And it's a warning to America to not adopt the policies that the UK and other Western countries in Europe have allowed, because they're seriously being threatened. Brits might be a minority in their own country within the coming decades as a startling statistic. Because again, individuals moving to the UK from the Middle East are seeking to establish Muslim communities outside of the Middle East in the West. And that cannot happen.
Okay, establish. Well, everybody established their community. The Chinese do it, the Pakistanis do it, the Indians do it, the people from Venezuela do it, the Mexicans do it. Everybody's do it. But your problem is was I understand it's the topic, but like you got no problem when other people, when the Asian, the Japanese, the everybody immigrates. And first of all, like that's not a business where people go. We're like free citizens of the world. Like we're free people. Yeah. You think you got some position to tell people where they should go and should not go? Like that. That's just way too narcissistic. But anyway, like they want to establish their community. Okay, well, what is the problem with that? I didn't quite
there has to
understand.
be a fundamental understanding that if you're going to benefit from the privileges of the West, that you then have to respect those norms, values, and
Okay,
ideas.
ma'am, nobody is benefiting from anything. Some of these country, you've been exporting violence, the tyranny, the chaos, the dictatorships. They have that. That's you. That's the West that created it. So I mean, how do you create a problem and then, you know, act like you're shocked or surprised about the consequences? Of course, people want to leave that tyranny and move to the West because it's safer. Yeah, but then the problem was created by the West itself. So maybe if the West stays in its place, right, and right practice what they preach, maybe those people will stay there.
But that doesn't exist in the Islamic worldview. If you even look at Islam, Islam means submission, submission to Allah. That is the authority in which these Muslim communities live
No,
in the
that's
West.
bullshit, ma'am. Everybody has to submit to their God. Even in Christianity, you have to submit to your God. But your goal, the script that they gave you, that is a project and all that, this Philos project, what they instructed you to do is to spread this fear and division and propaganda and all that. I mean, submission to God. I mean, what religion does not require that?
Look to
Wow.
supersedes the Western norms of the countries they live in. So let's look at the news story that came out of Texas, and then we'll look at Governor
Supersede.
Abbott's response, and then we'll even look to some examples
Ain't nobody can supersede anything. That's bullshit. They cannot go above federal law. That's bullshit.
in the UK of what not to do as kind of a warning to us here in the United States.
Warning.
Developers don't build here. East Plano Islamic Center, or Epic City as it would be called, would be 400 acres just outside of Dallas. It would have about 1,000 homes. It's got parks, a school, a mosque. But Governor Greg Abbott has launched several investigations claiming they want to impose Sharia law or Islamic law. Could look like we're showing these
And see,
videos.
when they use this Sharia law and all that, it just to scare everybody. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Sharia law. I mean, if you read it, I mean, 80% of it has nothing to do with other people. Like it's just between you and God, right? That's 80% of it, and 20%, which is instruction on how to act. It's very similar to any Western legal system. You can see it. I mean, you name one country that is under Islamic rule, like Egypt, Syria, Iraq, right? Saudi Arabia, right? Oman, right? All these countries has Islamic rule, and you cannot be honest and show but you cannot show like what's the difference between those legal system and the Western legal system. What I'm trying to say is that if you don't like those differences and all that, then it's a you problem. Has nothing to do with this so-called Sharia. I mean, that's like it's a foreign name, they want to scare people and all that, but
I want to note as well, because I think the word impose is important. Individuals who are buying land in this community, it's not that they're imposing Sharia law. I think everyone who's a Muslim who will be moving into this community desires to be ruled by Sharia law. So it wouldn't be imposing Sharia law. It would essentially be a zone in which Sharia law is the governing authority, and it would supersede.
See how they scare people, with this propaganda they have. Like, hey, nobody's gonna impose anything. Of course, like, okay, they're gonna follow their tradition and their culture and all that, but like imposing. I mean, how are you gonna go above federal law? Like, I don't understand. Like, this is gonna supersede. Like, I don't understand how are they gonna do that. It's unconstitutional. I don't think the United States. I mean, the United States is the last country that's gonna allow that. And so all these All this campaign they're running is just to scare people, just this anti-Islam propaganda, you know?
And federal laws and the liberties afforded through state and federal laws. But the concept of this epic city is that people are opting into it
How is
because many
it possible, ma'am? Can you explain to us how is it possible? You can't do that.
Muslims living outside of the Middle East do desire to be governed by Islamic law, especially if they are recent immigrants, because again, that is cornerstone to their worldview. It's contrary to Western norms and ideas. So I thought that the word impose was interesting. I think everyone moving into this community would opt into it, but that still fundamentally cannot happen in Texas, and we'll get into that.
The Epic City
boy.
website, the planned community would include 1,000 homes, a K-12 faith-based school, a mosque, apartment shops, even a community college. Their attorney pointing out that this community will include professionals, doctors, politicians, even a mayoral candidate.
It would have a candidate for mayor. So essentially, this would be governed as a Muslim community, as a community essentially like plucked out of the Middle East, placed in Texas. That's how it would be governed and operated on some 400 plus acres. And I think this
Man, first of all, not just the Middle East that is Muslim. There's like people in Southeast Asia. There's people in Africa. As a lot of Muslim. I mean, just focusing on the Middle East is just disingenuous too. So
many immigrants to see their communities relocated in the West, but again, refuse or reject or push back against Western norms and ideas. And I don't think this is restricted just to Muslim immigrants. If you look to the ICE deportation protests recently, you see a bunch of
the ICE deportation when you arrested people for protesting against genocide. That's what you want to bring as a justification for your position. I mean, wow.
Mexican Americans protesting the police and the U.S. government.
Okay, well, yeah, the Mexican, you know, when you was like sending those people without due process just because they got a tattoo, this is your Western values. I mean, I can give example after example after example. It never ends. And I don't know, like how, like you got no shame, ma'am. Ma'am, go to your husband, make some sandwiches. Or, I mean, these geopolitics, like you're not in a position to tell anybody about their culture or tradition.
The flag of the country that they fled to come to America, the great country with the American dream. It's this rejection of assimilation that we also see of Hispanic communities, many of whom have fled their countries of origin as well for corruption, for quality of life.
Yeah, corruption. The corruption that you created. I mean, everything. Anytime you accuse some other country or other region, you know, of doing something that's, you know, bad or whatever you want, however you want to define it, it's the West. The West is the source of the problem. That's what created the problem in the first place. So,
for economic reasons to then come to America. So we see this rejection as well. It's not just with the Muslim world, so I want to highlight that as well. But that still
of
cannot
course.
happen. It's like
Of
the individual we
course.
talked about with foreign students who get the privilege of coming to the United States and studying at Ivy League
Privilege.
institutions, and through the protections afforded them by being student visa holders to freely assemble and espouse ideas that might be radical, but they are protected through freedom of speech, want to come to the United States and advocate for the demolition of the United States and the
Okay, just because you disagree with the idea doesn't mean it's radical. And especially when there's like 7 billion people outside of the West who also agree with said idea. Maybe it's radical to you because you live in a bubble.
down of Christian norms in society and the reestablishment of some sort of neo-Marxist government. It's something that only happens and only by the privileges allotted in a democracy and by the United
No,
States.
ma'am,
that
it
inhabit a
happens
country like the United States.
everywhere, and you still haven't told us why you disagree with the program or the projects and all that. But you know, this is just land, and she's gonna man. Who is that governor
And I'm
about?
sure there's going to be a long legal battle that will ensue over religious freedom. But Governor Abbott said, to be clear, Sharia law is not allowed in Texas, nor are Sharia cities, nor are no-go zones, which we see all over the UK. Which is
Oh, this is just too much propaganda, you know. No go zone. So you mean to tell me they're gonna establish these real estate project, right? They're gonna build mosques and schools and hospital and all that, and nobody can go inside in the United States. This is what you think? I mean, I just can't deal with this level of, and I don't understand like who's watching this. And this video got a lot of views. Let me look at something. This got like 13,000 views. I mean, it's a small channels. They only have 25,000. But look at the comment. No Sharia law in America. Good job. No Islamic law. No Sharia law. So it's just like these people that write this stuff, they cannot define it. They cannot tell you exactly what does it represent. What are they don't understand. Like, you know what I'm saying? They have honor killing. We did the research, you know, in another video. I don't want to go back to that specific topic. Imagine building an entirely Christian community in Saudi Arabia or Israel. Well, Saudi Arabia is a holy land, but I mean, listen. Horrible and disgrace. The evil law should be banned. So you got a specific type of people who watch these videos. Good move on hating, halting Sharia laws and discrimination against non-Muslim. Offended by everything, ashamed of nothing, demanding for everything, contributing to nothing. Wow. You got some really hateful people over here. The entitlement of Muslims feel for the religion is hilarious. Yeah, everybody can practice their religion except the Muslims. Very good decision by the governor. No to Sharia law. Thank you, governor. So basically, no critical thinking. Nobody can define it. Nobody can tell us what specific, uh, things they disagree with. Do they have the balls to take allow Sharia law? And so they hear it and they think, oh my God, it's like it's really bad and all that. And I like, I wish I could explain it better, but like, this is nothing new. Just look at places like Michigan. Stop it before it starts. So yeah, this is a specific group of people who will watch this. Just to reaffirm their viewpoint. And I understand like everybody is biased and all that, but these people are ignorant. It's like those people who are against communism, but they cannot define communism. They cannot give you like two sentences, like just a general overview or definition of like what constitutes communism. They can give you something, but it's vague and all that. But like, and those are the one that are very vocal, against it. Oh, we need free markets and capitalism and all that. It's like, well, motherfucker, you don't have no idea what you're talking. Anyway, that's my point of view. If you agree, disagree, leave it in the comment section. That see you next time.